What's going on, everyone? So there may be a massive 5-team trade brewing and in the works. It would all be kind of centered around a De'Aaron Fox trade with multiple pieces going to multiple other teams, and the Lakers should be in the mix of that trade. This comes from multiple. So there have been several reports from the Spurs side of things and some like big Spurs heavy hitters and reporters that have a history of being in the thick of these types of things, to a gentleman named Eric Zane. I think I said that correctly. I'm not sure how reliable he is, but some of the Spurs reporters I am familiar with. Even Jake Fisher even briefly touched on this. So there are multiple people, multiple angles that are all kind of talking about the same thing, that essentially it'd be this 5-team trade between the, obviously, Sacramento Kings, the San Antonio Spurs, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Atlanta Hawks. Now, from the Lakers side of things, there are all kinds of mixing reports as to what the Lakers would acquire and what the Lakers would get via these trades. There are reports that the Lakers would land Chris Paul in the deal because they want a playmaker. They want a guy that can kind of take pressure off of LeBron James and Austin Reeves. That's been heavily reported for like a month now. The Lakers want to get a playmaker. Chris Paul is having a very good season with the Spurs, but he went there with the intention to play heavy minutes and start and do all that stuff. Would he want to stay there? Would he want to go to another team? So there's talks about the Lakers maybe potentially acquiring Chris Paul. Wouldn't really hate that, but obviously I want some other stuff. There's talks about them getting Bogdonovic, Clint Capela. There's talks about maybe Nick Claxton could be involved in the deal. It seems, based on some of the reports, that the general consensus is guys like Clint Capela, Bogdanovic, Chris Paul, and Nick Claxton would all be like these inner workings. Not saying that the Lakers are going to get all of them or even half of them. Could just be Chris Paul. Could be Chris Paul and Bogdanovic. Could be Capela and Bogdanovic. There's a million kind of scenarios. The reason, because this has been in talks all day. A couple reports said that it was close to being done, but now recent reports are saying that they're still kind of working it out. A massive trade like this could take days, if not, a day, could take all the way up to the trade deadline. Because you're talking 4, 5, 6 teams maybe that this expands to, and everyone's going to want their pieces. Everyone's going to want a piece of the pie. Everyone's going to want something in which the Lakers are going to end up trying to get their pieces in their end. So a lot to work through. I wanted to wait to make this video just to see where was it at, because there were talks 6 hours ago that this could be done within an hour, if not sooner. There's also talks about the Lakers potentially just acquiring Clint Capela and Bogdanovic straight up, but the Atlanta Hawks are kind of waiting. Everyone's waiting on the Spurs and the Kings to see if they can get in that deal, because again, pieces could be, it's easier. Again, you have all these teams that are part of caps, and they're the first, or not caps, aprons, right? First apron teams, second apron teams. You have all these teams that have to get creative, right? That need 3, 4, 5, 6 teams to all get involved in order for them to pull off and get the players and the pieces and the things that they want, right? So the Lakers, it does make sense to kind of get in the thick of some of these conversations, get in the thick of some of these trades, and see if they can come out ahead with a piece or 2 or maybe even 3. Now, as far as kind of the 3 main guys that seem to be going to Lakers, I would love Nick Claxton, by the way, but realistically, I don't think he would be part of the deal. Supposedly, he'd be going to Atlanta, is what the talks are. Also, there were brief mentions of potentially Myles Turner going to the Lakers, of them landing Myles Turner and Bogdanovic. Again, it's kind of all over the place because, again, it's all still being worked on, right? And what is being reported right now, tomorrow, might be completely different, right? Because, again, they're trying to work through all this stuff. But there is even talks, if they could get Myles Turner and Bogdanovic, that would be tough, right? But chances are it's probably going to be a Bogdan and a Clint Capela and stuff like that, right? That's probably how it goes. Lakers probably end up some pieces like that. Could they also land Chris Paul? Could they land Chris Paul, Bogdanovic, and Clint Capela? That would be $50 million in salary. Because Bogdanovic is making just under $18 million. You have Clint Capela making $22 million. Basically, you're talking $40 million between Bogdan and Clint, right? Or Capela, right? So talking 40 million there. Chris Paul's making 10 million. So you'd have to send out roughly 50 million. Problem is you'd have to trade somebody of significance like a Vando or a Max Christie at that point, because like Rui Hachimura, so Atlanta apparently has some interest in Rui because they just lost Jalen Johnson, right? So there is some sense to be had in like, hey, we could use kind of another forward, use another kind of guy that could come in, slot in at the power forward position, play the three at times, right? Like, so there's teams that are interested in Rui, but it looks like, that it's very few and far between, right? It's just Atlanta's a team that makes sense, so we might be able to work something out where you get Rui going to Atlanta and they get back a Clint and, Gabe Vincent going over here and these guys. But Rui Hachimura and Gabe Vincent is only $28 million, right? So even for a Clint Capela and a Bogdanovich, you'd still have to send out, another $11 million in salary, right? Minimum, which you could stack guys. And supposedly that's kind of like what it would be. Now, that doesn't mean that because it would be like Rui, Gabe Vincent, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Christian Wood, and then a vet minimum guy. Let's just say Jackson Hayes for right now, right? So it'd be like, say, those 5 guys. But that doesn't mean all 5 guys are going to Atlanta, right? It could be, the Spurs are like, hey, we'll take Jalen Hood-Schifino because he's an expiring young guard. We can kind of get a look at him to kind of replace a Chris Paul, right? Another team might be like, hey, you know what? Like, we could use Jackson Hayes or whatever just to, like, have a third big or something like that. So it's very possible that the Lakers don't just send all their guys to one team because they want to try to keep their core guys. They want to try to keep Vando, Max Christie, guys like that. But if they can find a way to land those 2 guys, that would be great. Again, talked about Chris Paul. To get all 3, you would have to trade Jared Vanderbilt. Because like I said, if you get to the 5 that I mentioned, Rui, Gabe Vincent, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Christian Wood, and say, again, Jackson Hayes, right? That gets you to basically 35, gets you to, basically right to Clint Capela and Bogdan Bogdanovic's number. You wouldn't be able to stack another like 4 or 5 guys without like Connect or guys like that. So I don't think that they'll get all 3. I think it'll be a combination of the 2. Like if they can't get Bogdanovic, maybe it's Clint Capela and Chris Paul. So now they got that guard that they can have and establish. If Chris Paul is in the mix, I like Chris Paul. I wouldn't hate Chris Paul. I'd rather, if I'm being honest and I'm the Lakers, I think if the Spurs get De'Aaron Fox, I think that they buy out Chris Paul. And if they buy out Chris Paul, the Lakers can then sign Chris Paul. Because remember, Lakers can only sign buyout players that are making around the mid-level exception. Chris Paul is making $10 million. So if it was me, I would look to go get Bogdanovic and Clint Capela in this deal. That gives you a shooter. That gives you, it's like a poor man version of Buddy Hield and Myles Turner from a couple years ago. But I still think that would be a good mix, and it gives you flexibility. It gives you some options there with Clint Capela's contract being an expiring contract. If it works, you can re-sign him. If it doesn't work, then you can just let him walk, clear $22 million off your books. It's a win-win, right, for the Lakers. But if I'm the Lakers, I would personally go get those 2 guys, assuming that this ends up becoming something. Again, keep in mind, it could easily fall through, right? You're talking 5 teams, all that want different things, all that are going to want, to feel like they're winning, right? Like, keep that in mind. This could fall through in an instant. I mean, it's hard enough to do just a 1-and-1 trade. You start adding in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now it starts getting chaotic. But to me, I'd rather do that and then hope Chris Paul asks for a buyout, right? Because, again, they got De'Aaron Fox. He went there. He went to the Spurs. That's a bad team rather than going to a contender because he wanted to play. So if you're going to go with De'Aaron Fox and he's going to play 35 minutes a game or whatever, then Chris Paul's only going to play a handful. He might as well go to a team that he really wants to go to or go to a contender or something like that. So if I was the Lakers, go get Bogdanovic, go get Clint Capela, trust that those 2 guys can upgrade the roster, which I don't mind. I do think that those guys make us definitely better. Does it make us a contender? I don't know. If Bogdanovich can get back to being that 16-point guy off the bench, that could do some wonders, right? If Clint Capela can be that, 10 and 10 guy off the bench and block a shot or two, can do some wonders, right? Don't underestimate the value of one or two pieces, but trust that, go get those guys and then trust that Chris Paul requests a buyout and then comes in. I don't want to see them trade for Chris Paul when you could go get like a Bogdan Bogdanovic and a Clint Capela. I just think that those guys impact the game so much more. Chris Paul, don't get me wrong, I would love Chris Paul. If the Lakers land Chris Paul, I would be very excited about it. But like, I just think that $10 million could be allocated elsewhere, right? And there's a good chance if the Spurs land De'Aaron Fox that he gets bought out. So I'd rather just trust that he gets bought out. Go get the two guys that you want. Again, if you can get a Nick Claxton or you can get a Myles Turner, right? Maybe Nick Claxton goes, because I don't understand the Nick Claxton to Atlanta. They already have their young guys. Why they want to get rid of Clint Capela? So why would they have two young? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, that's the only part. Like, again, the reports are all over the place about the pieces. So maybe it's something where Nick Claxton goes to a team like the Indiana Pacers, but like, he's making 20. Well, his contract does decline each year, so never mind. I was going to say, because he's making $27 million, so you might as well just pay Myles Turner. But he goes from 27 to 25 to, I think, by the time his contract's over, it's like $20 million. So maybe that's why. But maybe you could do something like that where a Nick Claxton goes to, a team such as the Indiana Pacers, and then the Lakers land Myles Turner. But again, a lot of moving parts, a lot of chaos. Hopefully, I explained that well enough. I felt like this video was as chaotic as these reports, but they're literally all over the place. It's like there's no consistency in like what's going where and who's getting who, outside of like De'Aaron Fox going to San Antonio, and then the Lakers are in the thick of it. Like, the Lakers are going to get some pieces. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Would you love to be a part of this deal? What pieces would you like to see? Which pieces would you like to get? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.